Today on the podcast, we've got Zach Schumaker, aka Shoes. How I even came across him was I kept seeing this guy, this young kid, interviewing all these athletes I follow, and mostly are high school and college age athletes. But I see this young guy coming up, Shoes. Who's this Shoes guy? So I followed him, and I've been following him since. And he basically does interviews and has these conversations with some of the biggest names in high school and college basketball. And he's a freshman in college himself. So we talk about how he started that, why he started that, and how he's building a media company and business around all this. Of course, we dabble into some name, image, likeness, because all that correlates to this, and talk all things sports, marketing, and branding, and the many, many opportunities to be had. So talk to us about how you got into this, started doing these interviews. I mean, you're talking to like the biggest names in the game and having conversations with them and putting them in the light that they're not having elsewhere. You know, some of these people, the biggest of the biggest, they'll have interviews with other places, but generally speaking, like they're speaking to you. And I don't know if there's other people that are doing what you're doing. We'll get into that a little bit here, but I'm not seeing it, especially on the regularity that you're doing it. But talk to us about how you got into it, why, and all that stuff.
Yeah, so I grew up playing basketball for pretty much most of my life, ever since I was like 6, 7 years old, and kind of was my passion. Always loved basketball, but over time, I kind of got really sick in about middle school, and I just started missing a lot of school. I missed the majority of school and basketball in my 7th and 8th grade year, and then a lot of freshman year. And by the time sophomore year hit, I was kind of falling behind, and I still had a lot of different kind of just side effects from the sickness and illness. And I always had a main dream that I want to play college basketball, but the ultimate goal was being an NBA GM or media person. And so I kind of started exploring both those avenues my junior year of high school. And I kind of decided to start talking basketball, interviewing guys, and had a couple of local players from Arizona. And from there, just kind of grew and grew into where it is today.
That's awesome. How did you, so like, you know, having a conversation with somebody and doing the interviews that you do, it's not natural to a lot of people. Like, even if you can have a conversation with your buddies or something, like people can have those and then get on an interview and lead the dance of the conversation. They get on, they're like, so Zach, what's your favorite thing about basketball? They're like bad at it. So how did you, especially off the jump, how were you starting to do that? Were you uncomfortable? Was it like a little not great to start?
Yeah, it was a little rough. The first few ones, it was before social media, and I kind of had the YouTube idea approach. It was all through Anchor and just kind of voice ones and audio. So it was a little bit easier. And the first interview was my brother, so that was a little bit easier as well. But it did take a little bit of time. I look back sometimes, even just once from about 6, 7 months ago before COVID, it still wasn't as good. I mean, I think it's just constantly improving. But, yeah, the first ones were pretty rocky.
I bet. You know, if we look back at this is podcast 81 or something, something like that. If we look back to one, I'm sure we'd look at it and be like, ugh, not good. Yeah. We could look back at like 72 and be like, ugh, we're better at this, or the way we phrase this or whatever. So, and you're so damn young. Are you 18, 19?
Yeah, 18.
And you're a baby.
Like, well, why do you think, or do you think that the GM thing could still play, or are you going to stick with the media? Or like, why media or GM? Like, what are those? Do you like the business side of things, or?
Yeah, I've always really enjoyed just interacting with players and being basketball. And my dad's a manager. He's been in different stuff in the business world. So I've kind of always enjoyed that aspect of it, putting together a roster and a team. And ultimately, I did create a lot of connections. That was the first avenue I pursued after the basketball thing. And I got to know 6 or 7 NBA GMs pretty well, and I still talk to those guys. But overall, they said there's not much you can do as a high schooler in terms of internships with them. You have to wait till you're at least 2 years into college, about 20 or so. And so at that point, I was 16. So I was like, I'm not just going to sit at home for 4 years. My other thing I do like is social media, is kind of the media aspect and interviews and that side. Just kind of test that out for a little bit. So right now, I think I am kind of focusing in on that aspect, maybe the interview, having a show someday, that kind of avenue. But ultimately, I mean, if God has in store becoming a GM, if that's an opportunity that approaches myself and I feel the time fits, that's probably where I'll go as well.
I mean, you have a show. What do you mean have a show? You have a show.
Yeah.
So why do you need to do it on ESPN or CBS or whatever the channels are in 10 years? You know, you've got a show. What I love about what you did is you started this at 16?
Yeah.
Okay. So you started at 16 and you're you don't have a name, just like we don't have a name, like as a high school player. Think about if some of these names you talk to started doing what you did, and they've got 25,000 followers on Twitter and 50 on Instagram, or some of the big high school. I mean, there's big high school athletes with hundreds of thousands of followers. If they flipped and had your mindset to just have, doesn't have to be interviews per se, but more like conversations, so like more just conversational, I guess I should say. Like they would have such a big business behind it. So but I like that you said, screw it, I'm going to start this thing and I'm going to go do it and figure it out as it goes.
How did you do that? So like walk us through like, okay, I want to do this. Did you have an audio background? Did you have to buy equipment? Like, how did you actually go through putting this together?
Yes, it was actually just one night I was getting ready to go take a shower, and for some reason just popped into my mind. I don't know how it came in really. And I just, after that, I just started thinking. I talked to my mom and dad that night, and I was like, I mean, what else am I going to do right now? I can't play basketball. I can't do a lot of this right now. Let's kind of pursue this. What do I need? How do we get this set up? And we started off with just headphones and that kind of stuff. I said I was going through Anchor and just voice things. And then I started saying, this is not looking sounding the best, not looking the best. Let's start kind of revolving a little bit. And all of a sudden, I think it was about in October of my junior year, then December-ish, I started getting into the YouTube aspect and started filming stuff and doing all that. And that's kind of just kept adding on equipment, adding on different pieces. And that's kind of how I grew in that aspect.
Yeah. So people who don't know, ours is on Anchor too. So if you're listening to the audio, you'll hear that because the intro has something about Anchor. But it's a 100% free thing. It is as simple as just doing it on your phone. Obviously, we're going to record on Zoom, and then we'll do some post-production editing, basic stuff. But you don't have to do that. So it's totally free and it's super simple. You just upload it to Anchor, and then it shoots out to all the other podcast platforms where we listen on the Spotify's, the Apple Podcasts, and so. But I also like this because you knew you weren't going to play basketball at whatever age that was, young. I don't know when I thought I was going to be done with football. Our sport was football in college. I don't know when I realized I was going to be done. At some point in high school, I knew I wasn't going to play in the NFL. But, when do I know that I'm going to be done? And I don't know what it was like for you, Tim. But at some point, I'm done with my sport. Now what the hell do we do? Like, what's this next step? You're young at 16, or you probably realized it earlier. Hey, I'm not going to make money playing my sport. How do I create these opportunities around it? And that's what we want to talk to high school athletes and college athletes about. Even a lot of pro athletes, at some point, you hit that road of like, what's next? If you're a pro athlete and made a few $1 million, maybe you've got some leeway around it. But, I graduate college, and then it's like, all right, I don't know what I'm doing next. My whole life has been physical and football and that sort of thing. And it's like, figure out some business stuff, but you're way ahead of the game here with it.
Yeah, and I think that's the crucial thing you just said. I think we see so many of these athletes, especially the pro guy, I think we can have bigger examples of, that are even still playing the game. A guy like JJ Redick still playing, doing his thing. He has his own podcast that's big, and we see a lot more players. I mean, you see pretty much almost all these shows that you see on ESPN, CBS Sports. I mean, all these shows involve players of some former athlete at some level playing in. I think that's just kind of leeway because they understand the game better than the typical person does. They know what it's like in a locker room, a game situation. They know how to interact with teammates on a day-to-day basis. And so they are kind of almost naturals. Yeah, they can kind of edit some things, change up and get better at it, but they almost are more naturals because they understand that they've been in the mix of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're speaking the language of, like if I'm a high school athlete and I'm in an AAU tournament, I can talk. I'm just talking about my experience as opposed to me who hasn't been in an AAU tournament in 74 years talking about what it used to be like. It's a different vibe to it, So it's more or less just, you're in the game, you understood it, and you're experiencing it.
Did you play AAU?
I think I had a stint in AAU.
I meant Tim. I didn't know if you did, Zach, but Tim, I don't remember that. If you did, I would have been, in the house. Who knows? But I lost my train of thought on that. So what I was gonna say, so ESPN, they're starting to get to a lot more of this type of stuff. They're starting to be a little bit more casual. I think, the Barstool Sports of the world really changed things where you can have conversations in a hoodie about sports, which is what everyone else in the country is doing, is sitting around on their couch talking about sports or watching sports. Whereas, ESPN, you still go on and they've got a tie on and they're very professional and some of their stuff like that. They're starting to get a lot more conversation, but you're right. The athletes are the ones that have the cool conversations, the ones that can talk a little bit different about it, can it can feel conversational, not like somebody's talking to me, they're talking with me.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I think that's crucial because we see, I mean, I think you look at something like First Take and they're doing the business suits and they're great. They're
Yeah.
a lot of money. But then you see something like, I think 2 or 3 hours later, the Jalen Rose and Jacoby show, they're kind of a lot more laid back. They're more funny. It's kind of, I think it's a 30-minute show. They're just kind of having fun. And that's also just a great balance. And starting to see people used to just tune in at 9 o'clock or whatever for First Take. But now guys, people are tuning in more throughout the day. And that's why ESPN is starting to evolve more and more, adding on ESPN Plus and that's really the future of sports broadcasting and sports talking.
Agreed.
No question.
But you don't need anybody. Yeah, it helps ESPN. You don't need an ESPN or CBS anymore. You just don't. As a well-known athlete or even a semi-known athlete, you don't need that. You can start like you're starting through Anchor and YouTube. Period. You can do that. ESPN obviously can help with editing, and they can help make the set, and they pay you, and so you get the upfront type things. But you can make this all happen on your own. I would like to see more current athletes doing stuff like this. You mentioned JJ Redick has a couple podcasts he's done now.
He's just saw Russ 4 or 5 months in.
Yeah,
he just started.
But he's had ones in the past though. The new one.
Oh yeah, that's okay.
Yeah. I saw Russell Wilson just started a podcast, and he's got like Mark Cuban on, and like these guys can talk to anybody they want to talk
Reach
to.
people, yeah.
Yeah, I saw there was what's the name of it? I cannot think of the podcast. That's not good. But Nafisa Collier and Asia Wilson, 2 WNBA players, have a podcast, and on there, I don't know, they haven't done any since the season, but they had KD, they have Candace Parker, they have all these massive names that are on the podcast. And I've talked to a couple other WNBA people about something like this, where like they can talk to anyone they want to talk to. They can bring on Kyrie Irving, KD, whoever the name is, LeBron James. LeBron may be a little bit different level, but whoever they want to talk to, they can bring on and talk to and have these conversations and start building this media empire themselves instead of just getting hired to do it for other people.
And 2 names you mentioned that I think are kind of revolutionizing this is KD and LeBron, and they're almost taking the ESPN approach in terms of the business partnership with that idea where you see the boardroom of KD. You obviously have with LeBron, he has all of his different channels he's creating. He's done a lot of different stuff. And that's really the head of it. I don't think too many guys have the capability, the finances, and platform for that. But the best at KD, LeBron, we'll see if someone like Mahomes could possibly do that in the future. Those kind of guys can really make it even to a different level and kind of have the ownership behind it that those two have done.
Yeah, but finances, how much are you paying for your setup?
Not much.
What do we pay, Tim, for this Zoom channel?
20 a month? I don't know.
Okay, we pay 20 a month, whatever we pay.
Yeah.
20 a month. So most people can afford 20 a month if they have a professional contract. And then we have an editing system where we pay, I don't know, 30 a month. You don't need that though. So I think it can be done. It doesn't need to, especially now we've learned with all this stuff and COVID and everybody's home, you don't need to have the $1 million production or the 6-figure production and the whole team behind it. You can start this from yourself and start to build. You can bring in the brand partnerships that can help pay for people to editing, and then you grow from there. So is it easier for LeBron? Is it easier for KD? No question, of course. But I don't care if you're LeBron, KD, or you're, a guy that's the 15th guy on the NBA roster, or you're playing in the NBD, or if you're playing in the G League, or if you're a WNBA player, or you're you're on the practice squad of an NFL team. You've got the ability to build this. I truly believe that.
100% agree.
Yeah, it's just about
I think it's
the mindset
mentality too, where I mean, we've talked to NBA guys where they view LeBron as somebody different. While he is, arguably the greatest in the world and maybe the greatest ever, arguably, it's more like they don't think because of his status that they could do something like an uninterrupted. While they could, but for those that don't, which is 95% of the people who don't think they can, you can also fall in line with a guy like LeBron and just do something on uninterrupted, like Channing Frye and Richard Jefferson. They had the road trip in, just under uninterrupted, and they just utilize everything under their services too. So
yeah, and you're starting to see
create that media company.
Yeah. You're
Definitely,
starting
yeah.
to see more people do stuff like that too. Like Mark Ingram's got his podcast that just started. There's Uninterrupted has a couple ones. The boardroom has a couple ones, and their boardroom's starting to really. Katie's whole brand is starting to build out more stuff like this.
Mm-hmm.
And now that I say that,
He's got 35 ventures now. Katie's deep in the game.
And you got hundreds of millions of dollars. Yeah, that's obviously easier to buy talent and do stuff like that. But again, you can build it from the ground up. I don't care if you have a gazillion dollars. You need $20 a month to have a Zoom account, and you can start creating these opportunities behind it. All you got to do is upload to Anchor for free, upload to YouTube for free, and now you've got a built-in audience.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, presumably you got people who give a damn, want to follow and care, and you're having good conversations. That's obviously all assumed in this.
Do you have any guys that you talk to that are like afterwards they ask you like, oh, how did you do this? I'm thinking about doing my own or anything like that?
Not really. I think a lot of guys in high school right now are still trying to figure themselves out. I think as a high school, I think it might be a little harder dealing with the school recruiting, which is constant calls from coaches, while also trying to play at the highest level. So I think it might be a little bit harder for them. But I have started seeing some college guys maybe show interest in it, or maybe pursue the degree in that kind of aspect, more media aspect degree. But I do know a lot more NBA players, and obviously they're all kind of having that aspect of, I'm kind of settling in now to my NBA career. I know what the job is. It's a little more laid back now. No school, none of all that. And that's when they really start, I think, going towards that path.
Yeah.
You know, it'd be cool content. This would be very tough for 99.9% of people to do. But you find that one person is if they create a podcast while they're getting recruited, and then have the coaches on the podcast talking about, you know, why do you like me? What can your school do? Yeah, that type of shit would be really cool.
You just call it recruiting pitch.
Yeah, that would be so cool.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And you would need like, you know, if it's football, you would need a top level guy to do it, because you want those Ohio States and Floridas to come through the door and do that interview. But it could be cool.
That would be cool. But I wonder how many schools would really want their pitch out there.
Yeah.
Probably very little. But
they'd have to scale back. Off the record is come in, on the record. Let's just have a nice conversation about why we like you and what our school's good about, you know?
Yeah. But that would take we talked about LaMelo doing some, like, he's a one percenter type of personality and ability and following and charismatic and all that stuff. But like a LaMelo could have done that and be like, all right, let's talk. You want to talk? Let's talk. Let's talk in public.
Or his dad could have been the host. Why do you like my son? You know, like, that could have been a good play too.
I think the biggest kind of problem I think with that would be college coaches, because knowing them and hearing from a lot of players, if you're a top guy, the college coach tends to have the same pitch to two different guys saying they're the main option. And so that might be the coach out. So if he's trying to pursue two top guys, one might hear that they're the number two option supposedly, and that my coach might not like that part.
No, definitely not. But it'd be great. Start getting creative, coaches. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and two, like, if I'm coach at school X, I want LaMelo. I'm gonna have to do, and I have to do his show. I mean, this isn't gonna happen. Yeah, but maybe down the line. Yeah, but you know, if I want a guy like Melo, if I got to do this, I got to do this. So you do it to make it, and then you just figure out the way to say what you need to say and not be contradicting other things, or it's a real recruiting.
I'm telling you, I'll watch it. I'll watch it at any level, any sport. If someone does that, I think that's great content.
I think we could get close to that too, because the guy Mikey Williams, some of those guys that have millions of followers at this point, like, they're already building brands, and we see them doing the overtime shows or slam stuff or whatever it might be. I think that's something we're starting to see more and more in the personal lives of guys. I mean, just even the interviews I'm doing, I think something that a lot of guys, not until the past couple of years, have people really even understood who college kids were. All of a sudden, you just see the mixtapes on Ball is Life on YouTube, and then you see them commit to your school, and then it's like, all right, cool, I'm excited to see this guy's mixtape. I'm not sure too many people knew who the kids were, what they even sounded like until they got to college.
Sure. And that's, you know, even when we talk to athletes in college, like, as athletes who are transitioning pros, now we'll start working with college athletes, but you see most of them still aren't really posting anything to really get to know them. Mm-hmm. They're not posting the personality driven pieces. Their school might do some really cool piece, and then they just like add it to their story, and it's there for 24 hours, you're gone. Mm-hmm. They're not showing, I say they as in like 99% of athletes are not showing like who they are, what they go through on a daily basis, like what's school and practice and like, all right, and you got to be at study tables, and then you got to make sure you're at this place at time X for dinner. Like, what's your process? No, you don't really see that a lot. So I think that could definitely be improved greatly across the board with once they get to college, even, because it is like, why do you care about the athletes you care about? It's because there's some reason you like them. Maybe they're just a really great player, but it's usually something else about them. There's lots of really great players in every sport.
Like a lot of the different guys I talk to, and then even my brother, he's the guy that's already being recruited as a sophomore right now. A lot of them have the mindset that, oh, I can only really post basketball stuff. They only really want me to see me on the court, my mixtapes, my pictures from the game. A lot of them think that, oh, if I go post me and my family, if I go post something somewhere else that's not just on the court, I might lose followers. I might not like that. And that's something that I think is not necessarily true. I think a lot of people do want to see what they do off the court, but somehow they've kind of established this mindset because of media. Because someone kind of established this where it's kind of become this trait that they think is true. I think that needs to start kind of going away because I don't think it's 100% accurate.
I totally agree. And that's what we talk to every athlete about, is show us that other stuff. Everyone's a basketball player. Okay. So there's how many tens of thousands of high school basketball players? Everybody is. Like, we get it. You're all on the same level. Like, why? All right. So Zion's different because Zion does these crazy dunks and blah, blah, blah. And as he's coming up as a high school kid, okay, he's different. But like, I was a high school basketball player my freshman year. Tim was a high school basketball player. You played basketball. Why should people care more about him, you, than anybody else in the country? It's because of something else. That personality. I'm funny, or I read books, or I'm an artist, or I do music, or I have a family of 12 kids, and that's the difference and crazy part. It's always that stuff.
And those, and this is something we preach all the time too, is like Pat said, you got your mixtape, you got your highlights. Everyone's playing the sport, right?
Yeah.
But it's that deeper connection. When you can create that's when those people are going to buy your merchandise. They're going to buy you when you do XYZ, which creates more value for you in the end anyways.
Yeah. All that stuff has its place. I love hype videos. I love the mixtapes. I love that stuff. But it has its place. If that's all you're posting, like, okay, who cares? Like, you're a good player. We know that. We've already known that. That's why I followed you.
We should create a mixtape for you, Pat.
Yeah, okay, do that. You're going from like coffee, hanging out with the fam, a workout, back to the computer, like those 4 things. That'd be cool. Create it, Timmy.
Fire.
So and all this ties into name, image, likeness stuff, of course. It's building businesses, building your brand, growing your following, and that's what we talk to a lot of people about too. Is like, your social media a lot of times is for peers or friends or girls or boys, instead of thinking of it as a business, because now it is, especially as you go into college, it's a business. And whether or not you're going to be an NBA player, the small percentage of the college athletes that go, or the athletes that go into college that make it to the NBA, if you're in that small percentage, great. But likely you're not, and you're going to be like us. And you've got to find a different way to make money around basketball or football or tennis or soccer. And that's where we think, being at this level of high school to college, they can really start to think a little bit differently. Not everyone's going to start building, not everyone's going to be like you, they're going to start building out a media company at 16. That's not going to be realistic for most people. But starting to see these opportunities, I think, is so important for them at whatever age they start to see them and start to really think and shift the mindset on it.
Yeah, and there's one guy I do want to kind of give a shout out to, and this Jalen Clark. He's at UCLA, and I've known him now for a couple of years. He has creators on YouTube channel. I think he's at 3,000 subscribers already. And he's really building his brand, and he's a freshman only at UCLA. He's really one of the first guys I've seen truly, really not only just have interest in it, but truly pursue that now at a college age. And he is one guy. I know I didn't say him earlier, but that's one guy I want to give a shout out to about that too.
Jalen Clark's now at 5,000. But I saw it. I mean, I don't know when you last saw him. I looked maybe 10 days ago, and he had 3,000. So, and that's how quickly that stuff goes. Jalen has 8 videos. He's 2. I think this is the first one was, he did a Q&A a while ago. And then he talked about recruiting, how he got his offers. But now over the last 2 weeks, he's done 3 videos. The first one was a day in the life, 50K. Then first road trip, 15K. And now it's first points as a Bruin, 13K, and he's starting to build this whole media company behind himself. I don't know if he thinks of it like that, but he's like, hey, I'm sharing and doing it, but that's what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
And even when you look at NBA players, very few have YouTube channels, like a small percentage of it at this point.
Going back to how you said, things can happen fast and it can grow. I'm sure you guys know or aware of that, the ocean spray guy a couple months ago.
Yeah.
That TikTok, right? So the story, I don't know if you know the full story of this guy. So he lives in Idaho. He works at a potato factory. He was on his way to work. Car broke down. Hops on his longboard, grabs his ocean spray, heads to work, creates that video. It goes massive viral. Tens of millions of people see it, right? Ocean Spray contacts him. They buy him a truck. They hear the story. So now he's got his truck, and he's doing all these deals. He's blowing up everywhere. He's, with Snoop Dogg hanging out. Turns out that he lived in a trailer a couple months ago. This is the start of the pandemic. Lived in a trailer, had his car broken down. Now, at the end of pandemic, hopefully the end of pandemic, he just bought a house for $300,000 in cash.
Mm-hmm.
That's how fast things can happen like that.
Oh yeah.
You said hanging out with Snoop Dogg. I know I can't think of the brand right now, but he was just in an ad I saw on TV.
He's everywhere. He's everywhere. Yeah. But $300,000 cash, going from living in a trailer in a broken down car, a couple months in a pandemic. Yep.
Yeah. And that's how it can happen. Now, is that a common
outlier.
Story? No.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But, you're Jalen and you're a UCLA basketball player and you're a good basketball player and you started to build this following. Like, it'll happen a little slower, but shit, he can, I mean, he could be making really, really good, but just by the end of the season, like what's going on? I haven't watched any of the recent videos, but what's going on outside of practice? Are they in dorms? Are they quarantining? What's the testing protocol like? How are they in meetings? Like, I don't know exactly what he's showing for this stuff, but then it's like traveling to play other teams in the Pac-12, and then there's going to be an NCAA tournament. And is it going to be, I don't know if they're doing a bubble or how they're doing that. And then, there's so much of this story to tell. And then obviously for him, he wants to go play in the NBA and be a high draft pick. So that he's building this audience up until all that stuff, which is so massive for him to be able to understand them ahead of time. Very few do. We talked about this on a couple podcasts ago, and there was like two people who had YouTube channels that were first round draft picks of the NBA a couple weeks ago. Mm-hmm. And it was James Wiseman and Cole Anthony. Mm-hmm. And James Wiseman was literally just setting up his phone and uploading it. He didn't even cut it because he did like the set up the phone and then walk back and then say, "What's up with you, boy?" So he just uploaded it. Yeah. So James Wiseman's a multimillionaire right now. He could have a team build stuff around that and do really cool stuff. And then Cole Anthony, it was him and a couple of boys talking about whatever stuff. But I mean, like, to take us through like basic, simple stuff like this, just share your life is so invaluable.
I think especially this year. I mean, you mentioned all the COVID stuff. Typically, we know it's traveling. We know you go to the games. That stuff we know typical. It's happened for 100 years now, basketball nearly. This is different than we've ever had. There's teams having to cancel games, reschedule games at the last minute of the game. You're traveling to a whole other state. You find out that morning, game's canceled, go back home or something. Or maybe even go have a new team fly out to come play you. You're going through different testing. You're having to go in quarantine. You might get COVID. Who knows what could happen? Like, this is a year where you could create a crazy year in your life, year recap, season recap, even just day-to-day basic. And I think a lot of people are interested in that. And that's something I think all athletes, right, even high school, at the high level of high school, college players, pro players, everyone wants to hear these stories because they're kind of crazy for this upcoming year.
Yeah. And if you look at the numbers, you look at games and you look at, like Netflix series, and consuming stuff digitally is way up.
Oh, yeah.
So I'd assume YouTube channel numbers and Instagram numbers and all that stuff's way up too. Mm-hmm. So the opportunity is obviously there to be able to do this and grow and build businesses from this stuff.
Mm-hmm. The only thing I could say, I think a lot of guys would rather have that rule come in next year, the name, likeness, image kind of thing for money. I mean, unfortunately, they can't make it this year, but I think in the next couple of years, that's really where we're going to see more guys see it. Because I always talk to Marquette guys. I know Marquette really is a school in the lead of this right now. They have a lot of programs already set in place, and I just did the commitment interview with Jonas Adu. He just commit there, and he talked about that was the biggest thing for him why Markel Schmidt won him over.
Mm.
He made a massive pitch about the name, image, and likeness to him, and he has 500,000 TikTok followers. And he said that's really what kind of revolutionized them. That really put them ahead, and why he's going there. They've really kind of set the stage for him. They said that they have so much more technology, platforms, resources set up for that already. That's what really was a big recruiting approach to guys.
Yeah. Well, so I don't know what they're doing or how. We haven't talked to Marquette. We've talked to like 70 different schools about stuff like, what are you doing? How can we help? That sort of deal. I would say very few really understand the opportunities. Schools, coaches, athletic departments, very few really understand the full scope of this. Everyone understands, like, all right, you get paid off your name, image, likeness. You can, do a brand partnership on Instagram, and you can start a YouTube channel, and you can do autographs and do a car dealership deal. It's like the general thing, and people are starting to evolve from that a little bit. But to me, I've talked to coaches in big Power 5 conferences, and one of them had a kid ask about name, image, likeness. This is a couple months ago, but months into the whole deal, like this summer, maybe the conversation was, and he said, well, he sent them to compliance and said, like, they'll be able to give you and like, so it was more just like, here's what's going on with it. Instead of being ahead of it and saying, here's what we want to do, here's why it's great to come to our school, and here's what we're going to do for you specifically. I haven't seen schools really build out plans. I haven't seen the plans, at least, of athletes specifically. When you come to my school, here's what I'm going to be doing for you. And that's a question athletes and parents should be asking. Like, great, you've got your pitch on why the school fits name, image, likeness, the opportunities, the technology, everyone has that stuff. But what are you doing for me? What's your plan for me specifically, Pat Curran, as opposed to Tim Curran or Zach or whoever? Like, how am I different, and what are you going to do for me? That's, I think, it'll be so massive in recruiting. There's a lot of face value conversations and around all this stuff, but I think that'll be like step number one in recruiting moving forward.
I couldn't agree more. I think, like you just said, that's the biggest thing. I got to know a lot of Division I coaches over the past year or so, and like I said, Marquette, in my opinion, they have the best plans in place. They have really a lot involved in that area. But talking to a lot of other coaches, like you said, they might know, the rules come into play next year. That's all they know. They'll say maybe there's something they have in store. They might be saying they're working on something. We don't know if they actually are or what they're doing. But it is a huge thing for a lot of guys. And high schools have more of a platform we've ever had before. We've never had a 1 million follower player play in high school before. And there's 2 right now, and there's about to be 3 of them. Like, these guys are constantly growing. 100,000 followers are many, many, many per class. These guys want that, and they know that they have a massive brand, and they want to be able to utilize that for the year in college, 2 years. If they're guy that plays 4 years, 4 years in college, that's really going to be appealing to guys.
Yeah. And it's not just the boys coming out of high school, too. It's the girls coming out of high school. The AZ Fuds of the world, the Paige Beckers of the world. Like, they've got big followings. It's a business now when you're Paige Beckers and you've got 550,000 or whatever she has followers on Instagram and others across other platforms. Like, that's a business now.
And I think the big one we're going to see in, I think, 3 years now, Bronny, I don't know what that route's going to look like. It's going to be more unique than probably any other kid will go through being best of all time. I don't know how that's going to revolve. He's going to go straight to the NBA. Who knows how it's going to pan out, but we know that he's got 3 million, somewhere 2 to 3 million. That's a lot. That's a big following. Mikey Williams is going to be out there too. Those guys that will be worth a ton of money for bringing you to campus, almost like the Zion Williamson effect, just because of how sociable they are. Almost if LaMelo would have went there as well. And these guys really, they're even bigger than the J Gups, the Isaiah Todd's kind of guys. These guys can bring a school to a whole nother level for that year they're there.
Yeah, no doubt. The eyeballs that an athlete now can bring to the school. So this whole narrative has now been flipped on its head. Bronny's a totally
like a Zaire Wade. He's got a million plus too. Because he wasn't. I know back a handful of months he wasn't like heavily recruited. And if I was a coach, I'm definitely. I mean, he's got a name, he's got talent, and he's got a following. I mean, if you're looking at a couple guys, that could sway you for sure.
Brings eyes.
Yeah.
He certainly would bring eyes. I don't know how, I'm not a basketball evaluator. I don't know how good he is, but he had Division I offers, lots of them.
Yeah.
It just wasn't the elite
Division
Division I offers.
Country coming out.
He was what?
He was number 6 coming out of high school.
Zaire
in the
Wade.
country.
Talking about Zaire Wade.
Yeah. Oh, Zaire Wade. Oh, I was talking about Zaire Williams. My bad.
No. I'm talking about D Wade's son.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
You know,
think he's doing the post grad year at Brewster Academy right now, which I think he's
Yeah.
gonna. He picked up a couple D1 offers that are pretty big.
yeah. Okay. Yeah, I know he had like Toledo. I know was one, Tim.
Yeah.
And a good amount of D1s. It wasn't Duke, Kentucky, those types. But who knows what a post grad year will do for you? But obviously he brings eyeballs to the program. Period.
Mm-hmm.
And he does a great job with his own brand. And I don't know how he's working that, but he's doing it.
Mm-hmm.
He's young DNA. I don't know how that works. Apparently you're allowed to do if you're D Wade's kid. I don't know. Hasn't heard his eligibility yet. But I love it. He should be able to and hopefully continues to grow. But all right, Zach, we appreciate your time today and wish you continued growth on what you're doing. And if there's anything we can help with on that end, let us know. Hopefully more people will start doing what you're doing.
Awesome. Appreciate you guys.
For sure.